Quick.
Oh, bro. First of all, Fab and I
We've been
both
friends
were
a long time.
Long time. We go back to 90s,
Yes.
early 90s.
Good stuff.
Well, first of all, we were both working in the same industry, the music industry. I was at Sony Epic. You know, we had just signed Shaba, got Fab to do some of Shaba Rank's first videos and all that kind of stuff.
Directed almost all of Shaba's videos. But go ahead, we'll get into that.
Yeah, he made Shaba visually hot.
Right.
Like his videos, and casting those videos were also kind of fun.
Yes,
Especially Trail a Load of Girls.
Yeah,
Oh,
sure.
bro. But anyway.
That was the first one I did.
Wow,
Literally
amazing.
was a trailer load of girls.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
But yeah, we lived in the same building together. Then we moved to Harlem. Both of us had houses right down the street from each other.
You guys are neighbors. Wow,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
amazing.
And now we're here, and I'm literally trying to get him to come here.
Exactly.
So
and settle here.
Yes,
Hopefully.
yes. I want him in Nairobi, Kenya, living here. As I've brought so many other people here. This is the, you know me. I feel this is the best place in the world to live. It's got its ups and downs, but it's got way more ups and downs.
Exactly. I love that. I love that. So, Freddy, real quick, you know, for folks who know you, I guess they look up to you as the godfather of hip hop, one of the godfathers of hip hop.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you feel about being, referred to as? How do you feel?
I feel great. Listen, I mean, it's been a blessing to have been involved in this culture, in being, creating for so long, and to see things have, grow to such a big state. It's still remarkable to me to see a culture that developed in the poorest ghettos in New York City a long time ago, in the Bronx, and it was just a local thing, and the ideas, and I saw something special that I think needed to be framed, and so I just threw my 2 cents in and started helping tell the story, and that started with hip hop's first movie, Wild Style, which I ended up, it wasn't the plan to star in it, but I had the idea for the film to connect, the breakdancing and the DJing, the basic elements of hip hop culture to show it to people, because it used to get a lot of negative press. A lot of black folks and Latin folks in New York used to always get depicted in a negative light, young folks, and I wanted to show something different and put a frame around the creative aspect. And that became hip-hop's first film, and a lot of other things followed suit. So it's been an incredible ride, and
Yeah, so folks who don't know you, you actually started doing graffiti while you were very young.
Yeah, so that was the beginning of my creative. I used to write graffiti. I was one of the first, and then thousands of kids used to do that in New York in the 70s.
Yeah.
It was a wild, crazy teenage activity. And then I decided that I wanted to be an artist using the graffiti idea. And I thought that we can be looked at in a better light. And instead of doing it illegally on the street, on the trains, let's take it into galleries, into museums. So that was another plan I had that I was able to, help make happen. And along with other artists, people may have heard of Jean-Michel Basquiat, Keith Haring, Futura 2000. There was a whole bunch of us that were doing art on the street, basically, that all came in and started going to galleries together, and we reached a much bigger audience, and that still goes on to this day. A lot of the graffiti work, or the idea of making art on the street, is known as street art, which now happens all over the world. So it's amazing.
Exactly, especially even in Nairobi, graffiti is a big thing.
I heard. I want to see. Somebody mentioned to me that there's some great graffiti here. I'd love to see. And shout out to all the graffiti artists that are here doing their thing.
You can also talk about how in the late 80s, apparently you used to host a MTV show, MTV Raps.
Yes.
Talk about that. How was the experience, and how long were you there for?
Actually interesting. It was an incredible, once again, another big surprise that MTV at the time didn't show much black music. Really none. Except maybe Michael Jackson and maybe a little Prince. But and black radio wasn't playing hip-hop at that time. But hip-hop was making an impact. People like Run DMC, LL Cool J, Houdini. There were a lot of acts that were selling records with no marketing and no promotion, and there were people that loved the energy. And I had also had a connection with a group called Blondie.
Right.
Before all of that I met, and they were a really big group around the world, and they made a record that was kind of inspired by things I shared with them about hip-hop, and they mentioned me on this record. So this record is called Rapture, and the group is called Blondie, and it's the first record to go #1 that had rap in it. And so MTV, when MTV started, that's one of the first videos that they played, and I'm in the video. So the people that were trying to talk them into doing the show was like, look, he's the guy that should host. He has this connection with Blondie. He's already been on the channel. He made hip-hop's first movie, Wild Style, and they said, okay, let's try it. So that became the highest rated show on MTV right away.
Good stuff.
And it changed a lot. Everything changed at that point.
And at what point did you start making your own music?
No, well, music was not my main focus. My main focus was making visual art, and then filmmaking, because with Wild Style, I learned how to make film. And then I directed a lot of music videos. So right before MTV starts, I'm still making paintings and having exhibits in galleries. For you guys that out there that are learning all this for the first time, I mean, I've done a lot of different things creatively. Please go to my website, which is Fab5Freddy. That's the number 5, FreddyDDY.com. Fab5Freddy.com. You'll get examples of different stuff I've done. The MTV stuff, the different videos I directed. So the first video I get to direct is my philosophy for KRS-One. And that comes out really good. And then right after doing that video, MTV asked me to be the host of the show. And the show took off, and I'm directing a lot of videos. First videos for Queen Latifah, Snoop Dogg's first video where he turns into a dog. I made that.
Oh, snap. Wow.
Yes, so I made about 70 music videos through the period of hosting Your MTV Raps, and I got to learn filmmaking.
You come off as a very humble man, though, as I converse with you, and yet you've worked with such big-time people. Right, so how are you so grounded and so collected, and you're so cool?
Thank you so much. It's just really like, I guess, I think honestly, I wrote a memoir, by the way, so my book will be coming out in March.
Oh, awesome.
Which tells this whole story of my whole life, where I come from, and I guess I had people around me that were really big people, but they were super cool. Like, one of them was my godfather, who's a famous jazz, rest in peace, a famous jazz drummer named Max Roach. And so Max Roach was from the era of Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, Miles Davis. Max Roach, he's one of the key guys of a type of jazz called bebop. My father and him grew up together, and so he would be around my house in Brooklyn all the time. He's from Brooklyn too. And he was just, I remember sometimes as a little kid, I'd be walking him, he'd be leaving the house and going to his car, and people would recognize him in the street. And at first I would think that they knew him. They would say, hey, Max, and I'd be like, Max. He's like, no, I don't know those guys. I was like, he was so cool and nice and never tripping. And then knowing people like Blondie, and when they were a big group, and when they went and made that record that shouted me out, I'd be like, man, those people are so normal, so cool. So it always rubbed off on me to keep it real in the real sense. Don't be acting crazy and trying to be wild. And
so when I did my research about you, apparently I also found out that the New Yorker did an article about you called Fab5Freddy, the coolest person in New York.
That was a big article too. Yeah, that's crazy.
Man.
That was beyond. It's great when you set out. I had a very clear mission. I had plans that I wanted to execute. It was, as a young kid, I was always reading. I would cut school, which I don't recommend, but I would go to the museums in New York and look at art. And I got very comfortable with different painters, from Renaissance to modern artists like Warhol and Jackson. I know a lot about art. And so I was like, that motivated me to want to be an artist, and to do those things. So
right, that's amazing. All right, so how did you get your name, Fab Five?
Because I used to be a part of a group of graffiti writers that were called the Fab Five, and there was originally 5 guys, and then it grew, but they were also known for for doing their graffiti on the number 5 train in New York City, and they were famous for doing huge whole cars. They would paint the entire train like murals. And if you guys see the movie Wild Style, you can see some of this stuff. If you look at my website or just search, New York graffiti in the 70s and 80s, thousands of pictures will come up. And so this group, I became a part of this group at the end. And my idea was, well, let's take that energy into the galleries, into museums. Let's try to do this and be real professional artists.
Right.
And I used to tag my name, Fred, and write Fab 5. And then it just became Fab 5 Freddy.
That's amazing.
As a part of the group. Everybody else in the group would write their name and then the name of the group. And that was what part of the graffiti scene in New York at that time, which was everywhere. It was really wild and crazy.
Are you still in contact with your group? Some of your buddies?
Well, the main guy that I became close with as I made the move to do what I'm telling you, the other guys were ready to retire when I joined with them. And this is like in the early 80s. But the main guy that I connected with was named Lee Quinones. And he was the master painter of anybody doing graffiti in New York. He was doing entire whole car murals. He actually had painted these handball courts. It's a sport we play in New York where you slap a ball against a wall, and they have a huge wall which is about 30 feet high by 20 feet wide.
Right.
And he painted one of those walls, and it was a huge thing among people in the city. So I linked with him and told him these ideas about us being artists. Because I used to cut school and go to museums, I knew a lot about different painters. From the Renaissance painters to Warhol and a lot of different modern artists. And I said, dude, we could do this too. I think what we come from and what we represent is just as important. And so I figured out a way for us to move into them spaces and connect with people that would be open to looking at us as artists.
Correct.
And making the movie was a part of it because I wanted to show us, because people didn't know anything about how they did it, they made us look like we were all savages. But when they saw us in the movie, like, this is just young kids trying to be creative. And, a lot of areas where graffiti developed, the city was really bombed out. If you look at the South Bronx and what the Bronx looked like in the 70s and even the 80s, you would think it had been bombed, like in the Ukraine or something like that. It was really bad.
So you said they made you guys look like savages because of your race? Because you guys were black?
Because it was racism. And they just had a very negative view. They didn't see anything positive in young people of color. And I knew that. It was basically racism.
Right. All right, so, okay. All right, so, I'm curious. Let's go way back when you were younger. What were your actual aspirations?
Shit, I was like any other kid. I didn't have anything too specific planned.
Okay.
But I had creative energy in the house. And things I learned from my father and his friends, because the guys that made jazz were very cutting edge, intelligent, and attuned black men to our situation. So they were conscious, if you get what I mean. So at the time when I'm growing up, it was like the civil rights movement, Malcolm X. My father was very involved in going to hear Malcolm X speak.
Interesting.
Following that, when the Black Panthers developed, to help pull black people up into a better situation. So I was influenced by that. Plus, a lot of these guys were creatives. They were jazz musicians. Some of my dad's friends were artists. And
so it's part of the reason. So your dad also had an influence with the way you had the way you loved conscious rap.
Well, yeah, because they were conscious people. They were aware of conscious. Like, for instance, so when my father actually was in the room when Malcolm X was assassinated in the Audubon Ballroom. My dad would go to his speeches, like many conscious, concerned black people would go. We were looking for something that was trying to elevate us as a people. And so that was something that was always being talked about and an influence on me. So when KRS-One made his first album that I directed the video for, the cover photo was KRS-One standing at a window with a Uzi in his hand, peeking out of the window. That was a recreation of a photo of Malcolm X with a rifle looking out the window to protect his family.
By any means necessary.
By any means necessary. That's the famous poster. It was that picture of Malcolm X with a suit on, a rifle in his hand, looking out the window, because they were trying to kill Malcolm. He knew they were coming for him.
Okay.
So KRS-One is about to release this album, and he's posed, and I was like, so he totally knew. He said, yeah, I want to show a modern day version of like a Malcolm X type of energy.
Right.
And I was like, dude, I grew up around this. And he also was a fan of me because KRS-One was a graffiti writer himself. That's what that name means, KRS and the number 1.
Awesome.
And
knowledge reigns supreme.
Yeah, awesome. And it also stands for knowledge reigns supreme. That's right. That's a good one, Troy.
So I'm curious, as a host of a show back in the day, obviously you interviewed a lot of rappers.
Many, all the
Who would you categorize? Who are some of the rappers you would categorize as lyrical geniuses?
Good question.
This is a good one.
Well, the kind of rap that I like personally has always been very lyrical guys.
Yeah.
So people ask me all the time, who's your favorite? I can't narrow it because I've been a fan of rap for so long. I have favorites for different eras.
Okay.
So in the beginning eras, the greatest lyricists were like Melly Mel and Grandmaster Caz and Kool Moe Dee. Guys like that were in the top tier.
Right.
Then in the next era, following that, you had LL Cool J, Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, Cool G Rap. These guys were the era when Yo MTV Raps began and had music videos and stuff like that.
Right.
And then, just to give you an example, while hosting Yo MTV Raps, I interview a young artist named Nas for his debut album, Illmatic. When I'm sitting there interviewing Nas, and everybody's excited about this kid. He's about 17 years old. Everybody's excited. When I'm interviewing him, he was like, yo, Fab, my father took me to see Wild Style when I was 10, and that changed my life. The Illmatic album starts with a sample from Wild Style. The beginning. He takes one of the scenes and takes the audio. Nas was like, yo, man, and I know about the videos you've been directing. I want to talk to you about directing one for me. So I directed one of Nas's first videos for the song One Love. That was produced by Q-Tip.
I'm curious, with some of the artists that you interviewed, the MCs, obviously most of them were very young.
Yeah,
was there a particular one that you were very sure they were going to be big time?
Well, you couldn't predict that at the time. It's funny at that time at Yo MTV Raps because people would come on my show when they had a new record out, and we would only put it on if there was a good record and we liked the group and what they were doing. So we would help them reach an audience and blow up and sell a lot of records. And you would hope the best for everybody. But then when a certain artist or a certain group didn't come back, you would hear stories, they're having a fight with the record label, this is not working out, or somebody got in trouble. Unfortunately, I began to realize, man, some of these guys are just not going to make it. It's like different problems happen. It's just like life. And it'd be really sad because I'd be like, man, I know it's over for them, and it'd be kind of sad. Everybody didn't make it. But then some of the people that did make it and blow up was also like a surprise. You couldn't know who's going to blow up and then be able to do it again and again and again. That's the real test in hip-hop.
I like
is the people that have been able to figure out how to continue doing it, because the music changes and styles change. So as an artist, they're confronted with, do I do the same thing I did on that last album, or do I move forward or try to take it here, or do I take it there? Do I work with this guy producing? Do I stay with my guy? It's a lot of choices that artists...
Yeah, it's interesting you put it like that, because really sounds are changing, especially if you listen to hip-hop these days, and there's always jokes online, especially amongst millennials and the older generation, saying, I can't listen to this new age hip-hop music, it sounds so repetitive. So what are your thoughts about the hip-hop genre now?
Well, hip-hop is... everything in the music business has changed totally. in the time that I've been in the game, and anybody else that's been around, it's been even from the 90s to now, the whole structure of the business has changed. Digital has changed everything. People have YouTube, and TikTok has a big influence. Radio is still very important, but it used to be the most important, you know? So radio has competition with people online, you know, podcasts, vlogs, all that stuff. But for me, what I find is young people have their thing that they do, that they like, different records. Some of it I like, you know what I mean? Some I listen to, artists like J. Cole, you know, once again, artists that got lyrics, you know? All the names are not coming to me right now, but if you lyrical and nice and you sound unique, I like that. A lot of other artists sound similar. That's the thing. The way they rap, they put a certain thing on their thing and whatever. But also what I like about now is you can get access to whatever you want to hear.
It's true.
So if you want to listen to the best of any era, it's all online available.
And even these days, most artists don't even need a record label to
and if you
distribute
really,
the music.
Correct. And that's if you smart. You have to be smart and understand how to really maneuver. A lot of people still, I want a record deal, man. I'm trying to get a deal. But I'm like, dude, that's so old right now. You really don't want it. I mean, what do you want a deal for? And sadly, those guys don't understand how the business works now.
If you look at hip-hop and where it came from, for example, in the United States, and obviously moving forward, the impact that it's had globally. It's deeply rooted in Africa. Did you ever foresee anything like this happening?
Well, I think there's clearly a connection because, you know, Black Americans, you know where we all come from here, although mostly West Africa, but still it's an African vibe, it's the African spirit, it's the African blood, and we took that sense of rhythm with us. So the foundation, America's greatest creation is its music.
Correct.
And we created that music. We laid the foundation from the blues to spirituals to jazz to hip hop to rock and roll. It all begins with people of African descent in America. And so along with that development and the miseducation of Black Americans, the intentional miseducation about our roots and making Africa look really negative in the media all the time, and making, like I was talking to my friend just the other day, and she was saying, man, they show these pictures of Africans with these flies on them all over them. It's like, what is that? Because that's not everywhere in Africa, you feel me? So they made a negative image, and what I've learned, especially the people I grew up around, is a lot of Black men and a lot of conscious musicians have learned that there's a whole different story about Africa. And it's a great potential, it's a great opportunity, and we need to start making that stronger connection. Like my grandfather was close with Marcus Garvey. I never met him. This was going back to the teens and beginning of the 20th century. And Marcus Garvey was the first Black man to organize Black people all around the world, the Caribbean and England and America. That's why the U.S. government went and took Garvey out and forced Garvey off of his platform and put him in jail. But my grandfather was a part of his movement. And he led one of the organizations, part of the organizations, the UNIA, United Negro Improvement Association, in Brooklyn. There was chapters everywhere. So the spirit of that has always been in my family. It's always been close to people I know. Like, we need to get a better understanding with Africa. His water, So, you know,
I'm curious, bouncing off that type of situation that happened, for example, in your family, and how you guys definitely had the roots, you had the networks. When it comes to art, music, social commentary, you really used the influence that you had to have important conversations. Right? And when you look at African artists, especially hip-hop artists, do you think they're doing enough to shape conversations around their own identity and justice?
Oh, that's a good question. And no, enough is not being done. And I think more artists well, particularly you talk about hip hop, but I know the Afrobeat, which has a hip hop influence, but it's like a unique style of music. Right. And some of the biggest artists in the world right now are emerging from the African scene, which is incredible. Burna Boy is the real rock star right now.
Correct.
And he's figured out how to play the game similar to how Fela played the game, similar to how Bob Marley played the game. You can get people to dance and feel good and all that stuff and party, but you also got to give them a message. You know, I think that's important.
Right.
And make it entertaining and make it cool. And Burna Boy's doing it, and you see where he's at. And I think it's something artists need to take a minute to think about, like, what kind of artist do they want to be? Some people are just chasing the bag. They just looking for the, to get paid and whatever. You can't argue with that. But the people want and need a bit more than, the fact that you want to be rich and
especially
talk about
now.
luxury.
Yeah. So what about your legacy? What sort of influence do you think you'd like to leave behind when it comes to African creatives? How would you want to, influence their lives? What kind of value would you like to add into their lives based on the work that you've done? How can they look up to you?
Well, look, it's up to them, but I think definitely utilizing the technology, finding creative and clever ways of getting their message out. I mean, the opportunities now are just unbelievable if you think about it.
Right.
Being able, like, YouTube is free, which still is amazing to me. You could shoot a video on your phone now and put it on YouTube. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Of course, to make 5 people, 500,000 people tune into you, that's some work. But that's doable in a way.
Yeah.
And then there's other platforms. I don't know if they're all accessible in Africa. Yeah. Some, in this particular country, I know Spotify is not everywhere. But then there's alternatives, So I think it's important for African artists to just figure out how the business works.
Yeah.
That's key.
Yeah. In fact, I wanted to ask you that question for the business, because there's many hip hop artists who are struggling to monetize their craft and their work. Right? And I'm sure that could also be the case in America. So how can they go about that? How can they learn this from folks like you who pioneered the industry?
Well, I learned it by doing what needs to be done. Like, I was studying constantly. I was reading. Like, I'm not afraid of books. I love learning and shit. So I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
You feel me? So I want to figure things out, and that's the key to who I am. And I'm curious. Like, when I interviewed people on my with your MTV Raps, I was really curious, meeting rappers from other cities, going to Philly, talking to Fresh Prince and all the other guys in Philly. Like, well, Philly I've always looked at as an extension of New York City. Like,
great
New York
city
is made up of
Philly's a great city. Go Birds!
Yeah, you're a super Philly fan.
Right.
But Philly, to me, is like an extension of New York City. Yeah. When Run DMC and LL Cool J and those guys would be on tour back in the days, I would go to Philly to the Spectrum, it was called, and to see them perform, because it was not as crazy as the crowd in New York at the time. New York was wild. They'd be going crazy at Madison Square Garden. Yeah. So I'd be like, you know what? I'm going to get some tickets and go to see them in Philly. I hop on a train, Amtrak, go to Philly.
I want to ask Troy a question. Troy, I think you're doing amazing with the work, of course, of bringing some of your friends to Africa, Kenya specifically.
Yes.
These cultural bridges and, of course, creating connections, how important are they, especially with regards to music and art?
After living here for 11 years, I see us. Like, and especially traveling around the continent and things of that nature, like, I see why we are who we are in the States.
Yeah.
Like, we are you. And it's just different levels. But I find that the creativeness, like, since I've been here, from coaching basketball to working with artists, to working with models or clothing designers or even web developers and anything in the tech space. The wild thing is that I find Kenyans to be like some of the dopest people I've ever worked with in just about any field.
Right.
With less. Like I've got a gaming developer who I introduced to my dude that runs emerging markets for Microsoft. And the things that he's done is better with less equipment, less education, less everything. He's done better than all these developers that they have that have 2-3 degrees in India, in Seattle, and all these different places. And he's like, yo, your guy is amazing.
Right.
You know, he's Kenyan. You know, my favorite clothing designer in the entire world, and I'm a clothes freak and I've been in fashion for a long time, is a Kenyan, Melvin Chuma. My favorite, in my top 5, and people always say Cap, Troy, when I'm about to say what I'm about to say. In my top favorite artists of all time that I've ever been around, and I've been around a lot of big people, in my top 5, as a solo artist, one of them is a Kenyan.
Who's this?
Blinky Bill.
He's amazing.
Most creative, one of the most creative cats I've ever been around in my life. The best group in the world, to me, best group, black, white, Asian, in between, Salty Soul. In the world, Kenyan.
Salty Soul, yeah.
Like, every time I'm working with Kenyans, I'm just blown away. I'm like, yo, these cats are so dope.
Yeah. So how do you see the creative space evolving towards, say, in the next 5 years? Because, well, you know, the reality is there's a sense of apathy in the country, but like you say, guys are creating dope stuff with less. So how do you perceive the future of African creatives, especially Kenyans?
You can't stop the energy. I always say, like, when people's like, oh, Troy, but the political system in Kenya, I'm like, yo, listen, I ain't even worried about the politics here because the people make things happen.
It's true.
I was going to say the SHIT word. But the people here make things happen.
Yeah.
So
we're so resilient.
Even though West Africa gets all the shine for music, when people outside of Africa look at African music, they're like, oh, Afro beats, Nigeria, you know, or they're like house music, South Africa, or I'm a piano, South Africa. I feel Kenya has its time. And because you can't stop creativity.
Yeah, it's true.
And Kenya will, the spotlight as it's going from West Africa to South Africa, now it's going to work its way up and it's going to come over to Kenya. And Kenya will get its shine creatively.
And we really appreciate the work that you're doing, especially because you're bringing in new ideas. You're very resourceful to the industry in itself. And I like it. I'm curious, Freddy. Have you engaged with creatives in Kenya?
No, I haven't heard too much in music. I've heard about the artist Troy's mentioned already. And, I mean, the bottom line is really what it comes down to this, you know, especially even more so now that we all have access to many of the same channels like YouTube and this platform, Spotify and whatever, is to just be really original and innovative. You know, in the beginning for hip-hop, it was very humble in terms of the aspirations for the artists.
Yes.
They really first wanted to be somebody in their neighborhood. Like, I'm somebody. Let me tell you who I am. I'm making rhyme. Their rhymes was like, I'm a superhero. I'm the flyest fly guy you've ever seen. It was fantasy.
Yeah.
It wasn't trying to, you know, I'm not trying to get $1 million or private jets. None of that was in the dream, if you will, for what motivated the artists. Then those things began to come. But the artists that have always cut through the most have been unique and not sounding like the next guy. Even though the next guy, you say, oh, I need to sound like him because he's got a hit record. A lot of people think like that. But what really cuts through and lasts is somebody that's unique and stands on there. I mean, that's just where I'm from.
Yeah.
And when you think of all the great artists going back, I'm talking 50, 60, 70, 80 years, the reason they stand out is because they don't sound like anybody else.
Correct.
And when you think of the great,
yeah,
you go, oh, nobody sounds like this one, that one, the other one. I don't want to call them a bunch of names, but if you really love music and you think about it, you'll know who's original, who's the one that you can't touch. As soon as you hear it, you be like, oh, that's so-and-so.
You know, what you're saying is so inspiring because even us guys on radio, everyone is trying to... I don't want to hate on folks out there, but you know, you're always looking for your own niche. You want to sound different. You know what I mean? And coming from you, I think it's very inspiring. I'm curious. Do you still paint?
Oh yeah, I'm still painting. My studio's in the Bronx. So here's which is a perfect segue, if to help out, if a little bit of what I'm doing now, and also a part of the reason why I'm here. Yes, I still paint, but I'm also I still make film.
Awesome.
And about 4 or 5 years ago, I made a film.
Yeah.
Called Grass is Greener. If you guys got Netflix out there,
of course
you can click right on this film. It's called Grass is Greener. It's a documentary about the history of cannabis in America and its connection to America's music, from jazz all the way to hip hop.
Right.
All the greatest artists have been involved in this magical, healthy plant, cannabis. But that plant's been heavily criminalized 100%. In America. Nobody ever died from use of cannabis products.
Even in Kenya, it's very criminalized.
Yeah, and the reason it's criminalized because many governments and many countries followed the lead from America. But my film explains a lot of the history of this plant, and the plant was criminalized primarily to criminalize black folks. Cannabis developed in America along with jazz. Jazz brought white people together with black people to hear this music. Racism didn't want to see that happen. So they saw that this cannabis was being shared, these musicians were enjoying it, and they criminalized it, and they used racism to attack the musicians and to make a whole campaign to make cannabis illegal.
Right.
There was influence by this person that I showcase in my documentary. He was the person that led this charge of racism and made up all these unbelievable stories that if you smoke cannabis, you'll be criminally insane. You're going to want to murder, rape, and kill people. He had influence that got the United Nations to put some legislation, a rule in that any country that joined the UN had to sign to. He put cannabis in with narcotics like heroin. So you had to sign and criminalize all of these, criminalize these drugs and make it against the law in your country when you've never had an issue with cannabis, which has primarily been a medicine going back to ancient China and ancient India.
It's true.
It's a medicine. It's and so what has changed cannabis is the medical benefits that have helped so many people. And then after they see testing it in many states in America, and none of the crazy stuff happened, then they legalize it or make it for adult use. That's happened in most states in America. That's happened in many countries in Europe. And what happened was, from my film, Grass is Greener, to look at the criminal justice aspect of cannabis, I tell the story of a black man from Louisiana who was given a 13-year hard labor prison sentence for possessing 2 joints worth of cannabis.
2 joints, man.
This still goes on. Even though it's legal in many places, in southern states in America, they use this to put black people in prison, then have them work like slaves in the American prisons. So this guy, Bernard Noble, that I focused on his story about him being put in prison for 2 joints worth of weed, he'd been in prison, and many people, when they heard the story, were campaigning to free him. Like, how stupid to put somebody in prison like this for that little bit amount of cannabis, just for possession.
Yeah.
And so I focused on his family. They broke down in tears while I was interviewing them. It was really sad. While I was still in production of the film, Bernard got a parole. We flew back to Louisiana to film him walk out of prison.
That's amazing.
In my film, Grass is Greener, on Netflix, you'll see this whole story. I was so moved by this all, I wanted to do something. And so this brand, Be Noble, we named it after him. And we also, be noble, be aware, be educated about these issues. So we created a brand that we made an arrangement with the biggest cannabis company in the world, Curaleaf, and we're distributed in 8 states. In New York, we take care of Bernard. We donate a portion of our revenue to Bernard, who's living in Kansas City, Kansas, and we are selling cannabis products in many cities and states, and more to come. And we're also in Europe, with medical cannabis in Germany. We're doing something with medical cannabis in England.
Right.
And we're looking to do medical cannabis here in Kenya.
Booyah.
That's amazing. That's interesting.
Yes, to bring the medicine to people, to help people have better lives.
That's good stuff.
With that Be Noble.
I want to wrap up with one question. Do you see yourself settling in Kenya? At some point, because I know that's Troy's agenda.
And I make my agendas happen.
Like I said, Troy and I have known each other for like almost 30 years. And I follow him closely on the internet. And
you can tell he's having fun, isn't it? He's enjoying his time in Kenya.
Dude, I see his posts and I'm like, man. And then he comes to New York, we get together. I'm like, man, I'm coming. But this is beyond perfect, because my business partner in the Be Noble business, Ron Samuel, he's moved here. He's been here close to a year now.
Okay, yeah.
Every time I talk to him, he's telling me how much he loves it. And we're working diligently, talking to people in the government here about what we are doing and hoping to get cannabis more accessible, more available, because this is one of the most thriving, booming cities. I've been to a bunch of cities in Africa, and what I'm seeing here in Kenya is just there's a vibrant economy that's booming. The people are tuned in and hip, and they need to have access to the medicine in this cannabis plant.
I tell you what, cannabis is illegal in Kenya, but the conversations are happening in different quarters. So I feel like it's only a matter of time before it's going to be mainstream.
Like I say, when my film was about to come out, a woman named Crystal People-Stokes, she was the head of the oh God, how do I say this? She was the Speaker of the House of Representatives. That's the state government in New York State. One of the most populous states in the country. She was fighting and drew up the bill to get cannabis legalized. And they were fighting her, trying to take out this, take out that. What was written in this bill is people that have been victimized, mostly people of color, by the unjust cannabis drug laws in New York. Those people get first shot at the cannabis business. It's now a $2 billion business in New York State, just beginning. And people of color, we have now in New York the most people of color owning and being a part of the ownership of cannabis dispensaries in the country. Because we've been the most victimized, and now we're being left out of the business, a growing multi-billion-dollar business all over the country. And New York will be one of the biggest states. And we are a black-owned brand, Be Noble. Oh, by the way, if you want to see more about the brand, go to be-noble, noble.com, be-noble, and you'll see the whole Be Noble story. Awesome. So we're bringing cannabis to many people, and we'd love to bring it here. Ron has been here, running around, having meetings, looking to set some up. We're also talking to people in Uganda who are very open to open up and get more information. And so once again, before my film came out, when Crystal People-Stokes, who was the woman that wrote The Legislator, saw my film, she was in tears, invited me up to Albany. I screened the film for 30 other state legislators in New York, because the film explains it in a way that it's like, this is what I've been trying to tell the people that vote in my constituency, because a lot of older black people just see cannabis as problems. They put many people in prison. They have nightmare stories about their young nephews and grandkids getting harassed by the police over a plant that has killed no one.
Exactly.
So the film will help people get a better understanding, feel the racism, but see culturally how cannabis has been involved from the beginning. Jazz, Louis Armstrong, I show the jazz songs that were made about cannabis in the 30s.
Imagine that.
Fats Waller and all these guys made records about cannabis. It wasn't played on the radio. You buy the record or hear it in the jukebox. But then I go into reggae. I go to Jamaica. I interview Damian Marley, and we talk about Peter Tosh, who made a song called Legalize It over 40 years ago. And then I bring it to hip-hop. I have Snoop in my film who talking about cannabis, and he's involved in the business. And many other important rappers that rapped about cannabis are all in my film, Grass is Greener.
Awesome. All right, so before I let you go, Troy.
Yes, sir.
You're doing amazing work in Kenya. Good stuff, man. You're
Troy's the guy, man.
Have you got any projects you're working on? Any gigs?
Actually, since I've worked with major brands like Mwimbi Seafood, the #1 luxury seafood restaurant in the world, I'd have to say we won that award 2 years ago. And Social House and Moving Pig. And lots of parties and events that I put together. Finally, I'm working on having my own spot.
Oh, that's amazing.
So finally got some cats that are interested, and it's going to be, actually, I don't mind putting the name out there. It's going to be called Harlem KE. So as you see my Harlem shirt on right now, but it's going to be Kenya's first soul food restaurant.
Nice.
And /lounge/club.
Okay.
But a very high-end, sexy, super club.
Elite.
We're only like cool people like you can come.
You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? Yeah, my man over there. He's cool too. My man. He gets to come.
But there's some cool listeners right now that are tapped in.
Yes.
So we gotta let them listeners come through.
Yes.
When are you launching it?
Well, we're actually in the middle of securing a space.
Oh, nice.
So I'm very happy about that because it's something I've been wanting to do for the longest time. Because I have a beautiful, cool crowd that trusts me, and they know that if I'm having something, they will come 100%. And they will have a great time, a great, safe, and fun time. So I want to be able to create, and I love food. So I want to mix the two together, and I'm not from Harlem, but I spent the majority of my life there. I'm a Philly cat. But the richness and the culture of Harlem is global. Out of any black city in the world, and it's actually Harlem's not even a city, it's a neighborhood. It's the most recognized in the world. So I just wanted to take that name, have his soul food, which there is no black soul food restaurants in Kenya.
That's great.
And then make it super hot and sexy.
That's a great idea.
So
that's interesting too, because Troy and I moved to Harlem just as Harlem was really going into another level, right? Back at the beginning of the 2000s, and typically the only food you could order was some soul food, or some Chinese food, or some West Indian food, typically Jamaican. Now, as Harlem has expanded, we have a broad range of culinary delights. And so, it's just ironic that Troy's going to be bringing that Harlem energy here.
And other big project that I'm working on is in March, I've been doing these trips for people to come to Kenya and enjoy what I enjoy. The life, the love, the energy, the weather, the people. And I have a big one coming in March. And if you guys want to check it out, because I know you got international listeners too, just go to www.homecomingkenya.com.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's for the people that went to Howard and other schools, right?
And others, everybody. Everybody.
That's what they call.
We first started out with
those are the black, the black colleges, the historical black colleges in America.
I love it.
That's incredible.
All right, guys.
Well, this has been dope, man.
SpiceFM, yo.
SpiceFM is it, baby.
After hours. That was Fab Five Freddy, the legendary man.
Thank you so much, man. Great to be here with y'all,
man. Thank you so much for coming through. We appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
I'll be back again and again to Kenya. That is Nairobi.
You better be back, man.
Oh, no question. No,
this is your hometown now.
I'm feeling it, baby. Yes, that's indeed. I'm feeling it. You talked me into it.
Yeah, exactly. So right now it's 8:15, guys. We're keeping it moving with some good music and conversations. We'll be back in a bit. Africa Must Wake Up. Nas, Damian Marley, and Kanan Tunikazi.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.